The pinch theory, how to turn conflict into creative change. This is one of my all-time favorite models. I want to talk just for a second or two to you, the facilitator of the group, before you show it to a group, for instance, so you'll know some ways to use it. I have used this with individuals, between couples, in marriages. I've used it between two departments. I've used it between very, very large groups, teams. This model is just, you'll be using it over and over and over again. I literally first heard it back in 1973, and I've been using it virtually ever since, and I think you will too. So think about showing this to your team. Think about showing this to relationships that you're in with your subordinates or people that are parallel with you in the organization. I think you're going to really, really like it. Okay? The pinch theory. How to turn conflict into creative change. Now, originally, this was a model developed called planned renegotiation, a norm-setting OD intervention. It's a mouthful. It was originally created by Jack Sherwood and John. I first heard it presented by Flo Hoylman, who was Jack's partner, way back in the early 1970s. And then a couple years later, Jack Sherwood and I rewrote it, because when I heard it the first time, it was designed for organization use. It was about renegotiating expectations between people at work. And I said to Jack, I think this applies to personal relationships as well. So we wrote a second article together, and I expanded the model considerably. And that was called A Model for Couples, How Two Can Grow Together. So here we go. Wonderful model. It explains why conflict is inevitable in any healthy relationship, and how it's actually a gift. You'll see that in a moment. So, we use the metaphor facing the tiger. There's a video in the series on that. You should watch it if you get a chance. If you're in the jungle and a tiger comes up on you, what's your first instinct going to be to do is to run. If you run, you're dead. If you turn and face the tiger, the people that live there say you have a chance. Not a guarantee, but a chance of a different outcome. So think about the pinch theory as a model for explaining why it might be valuable and important at some time to turn and face a tiger rather than running from it. It starts up here at the top. In every relationship at the beginning, there's a period of gathering data, sharing, and clarifying expectations. Think about this as happening between two departments, between two people. At the personal level, you sit down on an airplane, you start talking with someone, you gather some data, and share and clarify expectations. If you're being hired by a company, you and the company are in a conversation in a sense. You're in what my colleague Ron Short called the mating dance of the Watusi bird. You have your feathers all fluffed up, and you're trying to look like the absolute very best whatever person that they could possibly hire. And they are in their Watusi dance, and they're trying to look like the best company that could possibly be. So in the early stages of a relationship, while you're gathering data about each other, you're coming to find out, okay, what do they expect from me? What can I expect from them? And over a period of time, you begin to get clear about what those expectations are. And this is where the seeds for future conflict are sown. Because you can't possibly predict in advance all the situations that are going to come up. So you do the best you can, and on the strength of those expectations and that information that gets shared and clarified, you then have a chance to form a sense of role clarity. Now I get it. I see now what it would mean to have this job in this group, or to be in this relationship, or to have this boss, or whatever it is. And then you make a commitment. Now, the strength of the commitment is really based on the fit of the role, the clarity of the role, how much data got exchanged, and the clarity of the expectations. But you have a commitment then at that point. As soon as you commit, the relationship begins to go to another phase, which is stability, productivity, and confidence. You might say that the relationship works at this point. It's working great. Oh, this is great. We're getting work done. Things are happening. If you're in a relationship, the relationship is working. We've got stability now. I don't have to wonder. I kind of know what they're going to do. We're productive. We're getting things done. I've kind of got confidence. Yeah, this is going okay. And then it's absolutely inevitable that right in the middle of that period of stability, productivity, and confidence, one of the parties is going to experience a pinch. Now, a pinch is a little thing like, ooh, it's something not quite right. It's something outside of the expectations. This is not quite what I thought was going to happen. It can happen where somebody's late with the report, let's say, or let's say the boss gives a project to somebody else, or let's say this particular department is like late with the report that you need for something else. All these little things that can happen at work. It can be as simple as someone leaving their coffee cup on your desk every time they come by, or a colleague of mine that always stole my pens. It can be a big thing or it can be a little thing. In a relationship, it can be, you didn't take out the trash again today. It can be anything. Because in a relationship, it's never about what it's about. It's always about something else, like, do you really love me or something? And at work, it really is the same way. It's, can I trust this person? Are they really committed? So when that happens, when the pinch occurs, we go, oh well, let's go back to the way things were. I don't want to talk about it. Why not? What are some reasons why we just don't want to talk about pinches? I've given this model in probably 25 countries, every possible culture you can think of, Africa, Asia, South America, North America, New Zealand, everywhere, Northern Europe. The same thing is true. People say, I just don't want to create a problem here. It's no big deal. They probably didn't mean it. It might not happen again. We have lots of good reasons why we don't want to escalate. We don't want to mention the pinch. So what happens next? It happens again. Now, why is that? Well, because when we don't talk about the pinch, what does the other person learn? Nothing, exactly. In fact, believe it or not, they might not even realize that they did anything. They might just be going through their day, their life, doing the best they can, and something about the way they're doing that creates a pinch for you. So there's no information exchanged. You just go back and try to make it work again. It happens again and again and again. You go pinch, oh well, pinch, oh well. And every time a pinch occurs, a little weight goes on a scale. Click, that's 1. Click, that's 2. Click, that's 3, and after a while, click, and all of a sudden that scale goes like that. And now you can't pretend it's working. You can't go back again because what you have is a clear disruption of those shared expectations. Now you realize, okay, all right, this is not working. This is definitely not what I signed up for. And that leads you to ambiguity, this feeling of, oh gosh, I'm going to have to do something. And then that leads you to a feeling of, you're really upset at this point. You go to what we call the crunch. And here you're blaming, you're guilty, you're resentful, you've got guilt. It's like, I should have said something. Why did you do that anyway? You're mad at yourself, you're mad at them. When the pinch occurs, your emotions just go like this. Boop. But at the crunch, your emotions are over on the peg. They're in the red zone. Here you're really, really upset, and you can't stay there. No one can stay in the crunch position where the things are just not working. So there's some choices. What could I do? Well, the first one is to go back to the way things were before we had all this trouble, but not talk about it. We call it premature reconciliation because there's been no conversation. It's just, I guess I'm going to have to just kind of suck it up and go back to work. So great, you go back to work, what happens next? Right, the pinch occurs again. Pinch, oh well, pinch, oh well. This time you don't need very many times for it to happen, and all of a sudden you're like, boom, over here again. So what happens is like pinch, crunch, and your whole relationship then becomes just a big circle, and you can't get any work done anymore with this person. The relationship is not working. Things have broken down. Now, at some point, another option is to say, you know what? I've had about as much of this as I can stand. I'm out of here. We call this resentful termination. You terminate the relationship. You quit the job. You arrange to be transferred to another department. You get a divorce. You break up with your friend. You do something to physically separate yourself from this situation that isn't working. Now, The problem here is that what you think you're doing is leaving the situation behind doesn't actually happen. Why is this? Because every time you went around this cycle, every time you did not talk about it, every time you failed to learn something, every time you failed to allow yourself to be educated by this issue, to be taught, every time you did that, a little lump of some really nasty stuff went in a sack. Plop, plop, plop. Pretty soon you have this big sack full of you know what. And when you leave to go to the other partner, the other job, the other situation, you say, boy, am I glad to be away from that. The problem is that when you leave mad and dumb. You leave angry and stupid. You haven't learned anything, and you take your ignorance with you, along with a big sack of you know what. So you walk to the next part, the next relationship, and you say, hello, I'd like to gather some data and share and clarify some expectations. And you say, whoa, this is great. This isn't like that other place where I used to work. And all of a sudden, you're in a meeting or something, and the pinch occurs, another pinch occurs, and you go, this big sack comes over your head and goes all over everybody in the room. And people say, what the heck was that all about? Well, the problem is all this stuff that you didn't work out in this situation gets dumped on the people in the next situation. How many times have you seen that happen? So there's another option, which is to stay in the situation, stay in the relationship, stay in the company, stay in the organization with things exactly the way they are, but you give up. You surrender. You just say, well, you settle for things the way they are. As a consultant, I go into organizations, and quite often we see people just kind of like zombies going through the motions. And these are people that have given up. They know they can't affect any change. Maybe they've tried and failed. Maybe they've had their hand slapped for trying to do that, and they go, okay, I got it, I'm done. And they're just going through the motions day after day after day. There are marriages like that, where people have a piece of paper in a drawer that says they're married, but there really isn't any life in it. There really isn't any reality in it. There's no mutuality about it. That's why these people are standing back to back. We say we agree to disagree. Boy, that's just not an option as far as I'm concerned. So, fortunately, there's a fourth alternative, or this thing wouldn't be worth much, which is renegotiation under duress. It means under pressure. You decide, you know what, we need to renegotiate these expectations. We need to sit down and talk about it. So you go back up here to the top and you start saying, you know what, the first time that your department didn't do this for us, we should have said something. We didn't. That's on us. We got to talk about this. So now in that conversation, what is now entering the system? New what? New data is entering the system. Now you've got new information. Oh, wow, okay, we didn't realize that. And now, well, here's what's going on in our department. This is why this is happening. And so now you're beginning to share and clarify new expectations. You're doing what I call truing up the relationship. You're bringing your expectations more in line with reality, maybe with what is possible rather than what you thought was going to go on. Now you realize, oh, I get it. They can't get that report to us on Friday at 4 o'clock because of this, and this. Okay, can we? And now you have a conversation, and you're getting clearer now about the new role, the new way we're going to work together, and you make a decision. Can we commit to that? Okay, we can do that. Or as you'll see in a minute, maybe we can't do that. But you make a commitment again. Got it. Thank you for that. And as soon as you make a commitment, after renegotiation, you then can go back to stability, productivity, and confidence. The relationship works again. That's why resolving conflict is such a fabulous thing for you, for the other people, for the organization, for the relationship, because all this energy that was being drained out and being held back or being talked about, gossip with other people, all that energy is now put back into the work again. Now you can put it into where it should be. You can focus on what needs to be focused on again. Congratulations. Tick the box. What happens next? Right, another pinch. Is there any way for two people or two departments or any two human systems, is there any way for them to be in relationship and not have pinches? I don't know. I was brought up that if you have a conflict, that something was wrong with the relationship. It took me a long time and a lot of pain to realize that is definitely not the case. If you're in a relationship, you're going to have differences. You can't possibly negotiate in advance everything and expect every possibility. You can't anticipate all the things that are going to happen. So pinches are built in to a dynamic, real, mutually satisfying, where you're interdependent relationship. You cannot have a relationship without pinches. In fact, when a pinch happens, you should see it as a gift. It's like, hello, there's a change here that needs to take place in the way you understand or the way you operate together. So what happens when the pinch occurs, this is now a choice point. The crunch is definitely a choice point. It's a crisis from the Greek, krisein, to choose. It's a verb, means to choose. A crisis is a choice point. The pinch is also a choice point. You could choose to say, you know what, let's renegotiate this right now. In fact, we should plan for this. We should anticipate this. I know for years when I had a secretary, when I had an assistant, I would say every now and then, what are some things that I'm doing or not doing that are making it hard for you to support me? In a sense, do you have any pinches? And they would say, yes, I just happen to have a list here of pinches. And so we talk about the pinches. When you've been working together with another department or another group of people, you need to anticipate that pinches are going to occur. In fact, race car drivers, great metaphors, race car drivers, they understand this principle. They get in a car and they drive 150, 200 miles an hour around the track. They make two kinds of pit stops where they pull into the pits. One is if there's smoke coming out of the back of the car. They have to pull into the pits, crisis kind of situation. But they also plan pit stops. They go, let's stop after 12 laps, after 15 laps, or whatever. Why? Because they know from experience that you can't drive a car that speed, that length of time, without certain things beginning to possibly need attention. They aren't angry about it. They aren't upset. They plan for it. Okay, let's go back out on the track again. But what do? We don't make pit stops. We just keep riding that relationship. All of a sudden, the whole thing blows up. We're over here and we go, all right, let's get another person in here. We can't get any good people in this organization. And we never make pit stops. In our most important relationships, you've got to make pit stops, and you should plan for those. All right? If you're in a team of people watching this, take some time. Say, wait a second. What are we doing that's not working for each other? Let's get our pinches out on the table. Why? Because the pinch is easier to work with than a crunch. When a pinch occurs, you can talk about it because you're not really upset and angry. It's like, you know what? I think if this happens a lot, it could be a problem. Right now, it's just an irritant. But this won't work if it keeps happening. Over here, it's definitely a problem. In fact, we think everything from here over, once you get from this point over, you really need to have a third party, that's a neutral person, to help facilitate the conversation because the feelings are running so high over here and the mistrust. But let's come back over here. Let's say that the pinch occurs and you go, let's talk about this. And you go back up to the top and you start talking about it again. Or let's say there's been a crunch and you come up here and start talking about it again. New information, new expectations. You come down here and you start asking yourself the question about role clarity, and then you say, can I live with this? Can I live with this? And you decide, let's say, you know what? I can't do this. This is not working. I understand what I did to contribute to the situation. I understand what happened over there in that other world. But for whatever else, I can't keep doing this. So what you do is you terminate after renegotiation. You do the negotiation and you do your best to try to renegotiate a new arrangement, a new way of working together. And if it just won't work, and you say, you know what, I've got to leave. When you leave up here, you leave sad but wiser. You may have some you certainly will have some sadness. You're going to have to let go of a lot of things in that company or that job or those people or that relationship, but you leave wiser. You understand what you did, you've learned something, you've gotten smarter and hopefully a little bit wiser about this. Now, where are you on the pinch theory map with other departments, other people, other situations in your life? It's actually possible, if you print this out, to plot where you are with different people on this map. And remember, the map is not the territory, but the map can show you where you are and where you need to go next. So, it's very simple. In America, in the old days, they had a TV ad for a company that made oil filters for automobiles that filtered the oil that's used in the car. I think it was the Fram company. And they had an ad that said you can either pay now or you can pay later. You can either spend, I don't know, $50 or $25, whatever dollars, and put in an oil filter in your car now, or you can spend $3,000 or $4,000 and put a new engine in the car later. It's your choice. You pay now or pay later. So when a pinch occurs now, after watching this, if anybody in this room comes up to you and says, hey, I got a pinch I'd like to talk to you about, what's the first thing you should say to them? Thank you. Why? Because, first of all, the pinch is a gift. It's an indicator that some change needs to take place. And this is a sort of a heads up about that. And secondly, if this person is talking to you about it, you know they've thought about this. They have thought about this. This is a little bit of a risk for them. I don't care what you think. It's a risk for them to say to you, I've got a pinch, can we talk about it? Thank you, because it means they care enough about the relationship with you. They're committed to coming to renegotiating a really great relationship with you, and that's more important than whatever uncertainty or anxiety they had about talking to you. When someone says, I've got a pinch, you need to say thank you, because it means we're about to true up our relationship, bring our relationship in closer alignment with reality, and renegotiate a much better way of working together or living together. That's the pinch theory. Try it. I absolutely promise you it will make a difference in the way you live and work together.